Hi and welcome to our first session in getting focused for running. This morning we're going to take you through the squat movement, not just how you can do that as part of your exercise routine, but also how you can incorporate that into your normal moving around during the day and how it can help with that as well. So Kim's going to take us through this and I'm going to be your exercise dummy, model, whatever she wants to call me. Okay.
So the squat movement is something that we do a lot every single day without really realising probably, and we're probably not doing it very well. The reason for that is because we've got chairs that we can just sit down on quite easily without really thinking about it and stay there. We tend to sit a lot during the day anyway, so we sit when we're driving, we sit when we're at work, a lot of people, and then we do that for hours and hours each day, and then we go for a run in an evening. And we expect our bodies to go from a really flexed position to a really upright position and be okay with that, and that's not always the case. So when you're sitting and you're in that flexed position, your bum muscles or your glutes are quite loose and not really doing any work. Your hip flexors at the front here are quite flexed and tight and just constantly working. So when you do this and they are expected to open up and they're expected to turn on, sometimes they don't want to do that because it's not what they're used to. So for running, we need to be able to be comfortable in this position. We need to be able to use our bums because they're a really big, powerful muscle, and otherwise we end up putting a lot of work through our legs, and we need to be able to extend through our hips so that we can use our bums. So otherwise we end up running a bit like this, and we end up with back problems, really tired legs, probably massive quads, because they're doing all the work. So it's a bit imbalanced and we end up with injuries, or at the very least, just tightness all the time. So Jason...
It also helps with her flexibility, like Kim says, in her hips, but also in her ankles and lower parts of her feet as well. And if we can have good flexibility here, then when we drive her leg forwards, we can actually drive her knee further forwards rather than compensating by twisting with her hips as well. So it's a really good, helpful exercise to help increase your stride length as well.
So as well as doing squats in your workout session, you can do them every single time you sit down and stand up. So this is the sort of task for this week. It's not just to get good at doing squats, but it's to be really mindful when you're sitting down and standing up as to how you do it. So first thing to do, and to try yourselves, even if you already do loads of squatting, is to sit down on a chair. Okay, so Jason's going to sit down how he normally sits down. Okay, nice and comfy. If you want to stand back up again, how you normally stand up. So you can see what Jason did there, if he just does it again. He sat down using his hands to help him. He put one on his thigh and one on the chair. He leaned forward quite a lot, because that's an easy thing to do. Stick your bum out, lean forward. And then when he stood up, he did the same thing, but in reverse. He leant forward, hand on his leg, hand on the chair. What that's not doing is making your body actually do the work for you. So he's going to do it now, more mindfully, and he's going to squat to the chair. Okay, and he's going to stand up from the chair. Right, looks easy. What you should actually feel is all the stomach muscles turn on as well. So by staying upright and using your arms to counterbalance a little bit, you should feel that in your tummy. Same when you stand up. So if he does it again, you'll notice his bum's going back, his body and his chest is nice and upright, he's not leaning forward like he was before. And then when he stands up, all the weight is going through his heels, because that then activates everything on the back of your body. Okay? So try that a few times. It's actually not as easy as it looks if you do it well, because everything is switching on and you're having to think about it. And try and do that every single time you sit down and stand up this week. See what happens. Once you've got that cracked, you can then move on to using the little lift under your heels. So this is good, like Jason said, if you don't have loads of oh, blimey, that was a good crack. If you don't have loads of flexibility in your ankles, that can be a problem for squatting as well. So sometimes when people squat and it feels really uncomfortable and they can't get really low, it's because they might not have the flexibility in their ankles. So when you try and squat low, you can see the angle here needs to get quite sharp. And if you've got tight or stiff ankles and they just don't want to go, at that angle, you're going to find it really hard to squat low. It might not be that you're inflexible in your hips, it might be your ankles. And we're going to do something on ankle mobility next week.
So if you tighten your ankles, when you're doing this, what tends to happen is you tight there, so you can't bend that anymore, so your heels start to come up like that. Okay, so that's quite common if we're not very flexible. So this is why we're going to use the books.
So it's fine to do this. It's not a failure. It's not a bad thing to give yourself a little bit of help just to get there in the first place. So because you're squatting to a chair, that's not very low. Ideally, what you want in a full squat is to get your hips below your knees. So you can do that by using a little heel lift. So you can see Jason's hips are below his knees, his ankles are nicely flexed. This is pretty much parallel to the floor. And that's probably a bit more comfortable for him. You can then use that heel lift to push up through your heels as you come up. Again, you can see his chest is nice and lifted. He's not leaning really far forwards. So he's able to push up through his bum and protect his back as well. So your bum muscles, if they're working well, they're going to protect your lower back. If you do this like this, which a lot of people do, they do squats really fast, they can get really low, but they're leaning forward, you're bound to hurt something, probably your back. So that's the next step with a bit of a heel lift. So when you've got used to doing it with the heel lift, or even with some sort of chunkier trainers on, you can take the books away or the trainers away. When you're feeling a bit more balanced, you can do it holding on to something. So this will help you keep your chest upright as well. So it might be that you can do it with the books, but you're finding yourself coming forward. It will be very hard to do that without holding on to something. You'll probably topple over, but it gives you that feeling and that sense of what it's like to keep your back nice and straight and your chest upright. And you can still get low without lifting your heels up.
So better to do this rather than do it without, and you starting to bend forward as you come down.
Yeah.
You're looking for angles, aren't you, as
Yeah.
well, when you do it. So you need your lower legs and your back should almost be parallel
Is it
to each
perpendicular? Is it?
other. So you can point that out, can't you?
Yeah.
Come down.
So you can see here, the shin and the back are at a similar angle, and that's what you're looking for. It's hard to do, obviously, when you're on your own. So if you film yourself or get someone to watch you, and then when you step away,
rather than it being
yeah,
like that.
so you can see the shin's taller there and the back's going down, so you're more like that. You don't want that. You're going to hurt your back, and you're not going to get the most out of the exercise.
Okay.
So holding onto something in front of you, or holding onto a table or a kitchen counter and doing it that way just helps keep you upright and getting low. Okay, so doing it without any assistance at all is obviously the last step. So what we're looking for here is the same stuff. So it's shins and back moving in the same direction, not like that, but like that. You want some nice flexion in your ankles, and you want to be counterbalancing. Most people find it easier to put their arms out in front of them just as a counterbalance. If you can do it facing forward. So what we also want to see, and this is particularly pertinent for women, it's harder for women to do, is for your knees to be either going in the same direction as your toes or being slightly outside your toes, depending on how open you are in your hips. So for that to happen, you might need to adjust your foot position. Some people say that you need to be hip width apart. That's way too narrow for me. So I need, because I'm a girl, I've got that Q angle going on. So for women, when our hips are wider, which means that our femur, our thighs, are at a sharper angle and they go inwards slightly. Men's to go straight down, women's go like that. So we're more likely to bow in when we squat, which is going to hurt your knees quite a lot. So as you could see, Jason is able to do a squat nicely with his feet pointing forward. I have to have mine turned out a bit, which again is no problem. It's just the way I'm shaped. So that helps me to keep my knees going in more or less the right direction. Okay, so set yourself up for what's comfortable for you. Don't force this position and get your knees coming inwards because you're going to hurt yourself. Turn your feet out if you have to. Okay.
So quick review then of what we did. So first we did the chair squat. So you can practice this every day, just throughout the day when you're getting up and down, out of bed in the morning.
Remember, you should be feeling it in your tummy as well. And when you get to the top, squeeze your bum. That's something to point out, actually. If you're not used to using your bum to do things like this, you might not feel anything happening there. So consciously squeeze first.
Next stage, so we're doing it onto the bucks.
So back nice and flat, shins and back at the same angle, pushing through your heels and then squeezing your bum forward when you get to the top.
And then moving on from there.
So this is so that you can keep your chest nice and upright, eyes forward, not down. And so you can get a little bit lower maybe than you did on the bucks.
And then finally we're aiming to get to the point where we can do a nice full squat just with a body weight for now.
Okay, so same thing again, his hips are getting lower than his knees. Back and shins are moving together and he's keeping his gaze forwards so that he's not tipping over. Okay.
Cool. So go away and have a practice. We're going to do, the next session is going to be like a little routine. So we'll incorporate some squats into that as well so you can have a go at them in a routine. And let us know how you get on. And if you've got any questions about this, then please post them in the comments and we'll try and help you out as best we can. Okay, enjoy.